Breaches of contract are when one or both parties in a legally binding contract fail to uphold or intentionally neglect the terms set forth in the contract. In the context of the supplier and buyer relationship, this commonly occurs when the results of the labor are not to the standard laid out in the contract. So, the Judicial Education Center of the University of New Mexico writes, a breach of contract is a failure, without legal excuse, to perform any promise that forms all or part of the contract. So, damages and remedies on contracts are set forth to in case a breach of the contract occurs. So, the intention of this section is to award the party whose needs were not met. For an example, an organization may prepay for a good or service, and if the supplier fails to supply that good or service, then the organization may be rewarded with financial remedies. So, a complex licensing agreement, first let me back up. A licensing agreement bestows a person or an organization the right to use property. So this could be physical property or more commonly intellectual property. Villager and Bauer write, recently license contracts have become extremely complex, including sub-licensing, co-development, or profit sharing. So part of the licensing process involves the formation and post-formation of a contract. So the contract lifecycle can be broken down into 4 distinct stages, which are the generation stage. So at this stage, one of the parties creates the offer, detailing the terms of the contract as well as the expected outcomes of the contract. So the second stage is the negotiation phase. Now, this can be one of the most lengthy part of the contract process. And this takes place when one of the parties is not satisfied with the terms of the contract. So the third stage is the approval stage. So the approval stage is when both parties are satisfied with the terms of the contract. And typically this involves a meeting where both parties verbally and visually agree on the terms set forth. Lastly, the execution phase. So the execution phase is when both parties sign the contract and then they enter a legally binding partnership. So there are 2 stages post-formation of the contract, which are the perform stage. So this is when each of the parties complete or perform the terms listed in the contract. And then lastly, the dispute/terminate phase. This is when the contract is over, whether it is, the terms are met of the contract or when the duration of the contract is up, the contract will be terminated. So contracts can be exceedingly complex due to the substantial risk each party is undertaking. Not only this, but there are financial and legal repercussions if the terms are not met, so each organization must be careful in making sure that they can satisfy each requirement. Organizations should always carefully and review and consider the terms, not only to ensure that the company is free from risk, but also to ensure that it is financially favorable to the organization. Thank you.